My best wishes to you all. I welcome you all on behalf of Directorate of School Education Home Classes. It is an attempt to connect learner with instructor, students. It is a digital initiative by Directorate of School Education Jammu, and we are proud that we are connected with you as our learners. So welcome to my class. Today I'll be discussing with you my presentation on the Scarecrow. That is your fifth lesson of Chinar 1. First of all, let me introduce myself. I am Manmeet Bali, Senior Lecturer in English, Department of School Education, Government of Jammu and Kashmir. We have our fifth lesson from Chinar 2. So you can see the book. It is well written by Neena Kaul and Renu Anand. So it is the revised edition, students, by Foundation Books. And we move to Scarecrow, lesson 5, Chinar 2, and the author is Satyajit Ray. So, what about having a glimpse of the Scarecrow? See, you can see that the Scarecrow is depicted in this picture. It's not only that I am making you understand as to how a scarecrow looks, but the idea behind it was the real life experience of the author Satyajit Ray. So Satyajit Ray has very beautifully explained that how a scarecrow makes him realize his mistake and how he feels that one should be very compassionate in life rather than taking decisions at once, right? So Scarecrow, indeed, it scared Mriganko Babu, the main character of the story, right? And now we have about the author Satyajit Ray, who was an Indian Bengali filmmaker, was widely regarded as one of the 20th century's biggest filmmakers. So he was, you can understand that 20th century's biggest filmmakers means that he had so much credit to his writings. He was a publisher, illustrator, calligrapher, composer of music, graphic designer, and film critic. So he has written numerous short stories, Fluda, the Sleuth, and Professor Shanku. The scientist in his stories about science fiction are popular fictional characters he has created. And in 1992, students, the Indian government honored him with Bharat Ratna. So we are proud that we have such great writers amongst us, and Archana too also comprises a lesson from this great writer Satyajit Ray. So you can have the three pictures of Satyajit Ray, a young man with so many aspirations, so many dreams. The second is a choreographer, a producer, a director, and the third, you can see a writer holding a pen in the hand, right? And then the gist of the Scarecrow, it tells the story of a man who dismisses his old servant on suspicion of theft. So usually, we do not have anybody else to blame rather than our servants or maids or anybody who works in our house. But the story tells us that how the suspicion made him realize his mistake. Who was the person, main character? That was the main character of the story, that is Mriganko Babu. So one day, when he was driving out of the town, his car runs out of petrol and he sends his driver to fetch the petrol. But by the time the driver comes, all the things were cleared because someone in the field, in the form of a scarecrow, had made him realize his mistake, that he had not committed the crime. So, who was talking to Mriganko Babu in the story? It was his servant Abhiram. So, next. And also, this story has horror, fantasy, adventure, magic, and supernatural element in it. That is why, for comprising so many elements in his stories, in his writings, he has been appreciated every time. I'm talking about the author, I'm talking about Satyajit Ray. So he was also awarded by Dada Saheb Phalke Award. See, children, why I'm associating the story with the awards of this great writer Satyajit Ray, because you can see when I'm talking about horror, you see the horror in this story. You see fantasy, you see adventure, and you'll see magic and supernatural elements. So we'll just take one by one, and I have divided the story into 7 parts because this is a long story, and I thought that my diagrammatical view of this story would make you understand the story very easily. So Mriganko Babu, he's the protagonist, he's the main character of the story, and around him revolves two other characters, that is Abhiram, an old servant, okay, who later turns into a scarecrow and then again get back to his position. So he's there, the scarecrow, and Sudhir, the driver. So three people, the main. Now, summary of the story. In this short story, the protagonist, Mriganko Babu, is stranded in middle of nowhere where his car runs out of petrol. He sends his driver Sudhir to fetch petrol while he's waiting. He's on his way back to Calcutta from Durgapur, where he was felicitated this morning. So they were coming back, and in spite of telling so many times to his servant Sudhir, Mriganko Babu had warned him, but Sudhir did not listen. He did not take any notice of the petrol gauge, and he had to suffer. So they were stuck in the middle of the road, and now the story progresses further. Let's see. So they're moving, and see the fields around them. So, two questions, just to make you understand the story, I have framed two questions, think and answer. What did Sudhir not pay attention to? So, the petrol gauge of Mriganko Babu's car was not functioning properly, okay? When anything does not function properly, it's a duty to repair it, to get it straightened, to make alternative measures. But since it was a car, it was a mode of transport, Sudhir did not pay any attention, and he could not make out that his car had less petrol in the tank. In spite, Mriganko Babu had pointed it many times, but Sudhir did not pay any attention to it. So that is why they were stuck up in midway of the road. Why did Mriganko Babu go to Durgapur? So initially you must have read, because every time we tell you, and we see that the children who are with their texts have the maximum benefit of enjoying the stories, right? So Mriganko Shekhar Mukhopadhyay was a famous and popular writer. A club in Durgapur had invited him. So therefore he went to Durgapur. So why I'm writing the full name here? Because you must remember, you must memorize. Mriganko Shekhar Mukhopadhyay was a famous and popular writer, and so for a felicitation function he had been invited by a club in Durgapur. So they were coming back from Durgapur, and they were stuck on the way because of less petrol. And see, Mriganko Babu was waiting for his driver to return, and he's looking at the barren field. He is imagining that he could have a greater sight had this field not been barren. What does barren mean? It is empty, having no vegetation growing. So it's just a picture to make you understand what is barren and what is a fully cultivated field. So barren, around him there was no vegetation growing in that field, and Mriganko Babu was there inside his car sitting alone. So part 2, children, the next few portions of the story I have summed it up. He lights a cigarette in order to pass his time, and he sees the surroundings. Since it's the month of January and all the plants had been removed, so he sees that there were no people in those huts. 2 huts he could see, and in the middle of the field was a scarecrow. Mriganko Babu immediately returns to his car and starts reading a detective novel. He had to pass the time, but he could not, pass it that way. Then he thought that I must start writing something, some plot, and side by side also he was, murmuring in his heart that, see, Bengalis didn't help me. I was asking them to help. I was stopping the vehicles, but nobody stopped. So he started cursing Bengalis, and unable to concentrate on reading and other activities, he takes a book and starts jotting some points related to a plot. So he was a good writer also. So he says that I do not find any interest in this activity of reading. Let me write something. So he started writing, right? And then two questions pertaining to it. What were Mriganko Babu's thoughts on his fellow Bengalis and who made him think so? It was, uh, not a personal thought, but it was the thought related to the situation. He thought that since he was going towards Calcutta, and many Bengalis would have traveled that way, but nobody stopped. So he was stuck in middle of the road. Nobody asked him for the help. So that is why his thoughts on his fellow Bengalis made him think so. And also, what did he do in the car? What did he try to think of doing next? He sat in the car, started to read a book, but could not concentrate. So, activities, we are showing what he did. This is, the writer is giving you an insight as to what Mriganko Babu did and what thing got his attention. So, after this, we'll come to know. And he started to write a story because Bharat magazine had asked him for one. So, they had asked him to write an article, the Bharat magazine, and he was preparing that article and he started jotting some points. So, next few ideas of the story I've put in part 3. As I told you that I have divided the story in 7 sections. Now, in this section, in the distance, he notices a scarecrow. And as he's writing, he sees that, something is moving there. What is it? So he could see a vertical bamboo pole with the horizontal one fixed to it, and a torn shirt was slipped on it. Babu starts thinking how wide it is. What it could be. Again and again, something got his attention. What was it? It was the shirt which I have, made it down in a diagram. That is red and black printed shirt. He justifies himself. He says that, oh, what so? If the birds get scared, why do not the dogs have that smelling power? They do not get scared. Even birds have that kind of smelling power. So they should also, think that it is not a real scarecrow. It's not a real man. But dogs do that. So many thoughts he's making him feel that kind of behavior which should not, disturb his thoughts of watching towards the scarecrow. He sees the scarecrow is wearing a torn red and black printed shirt. It reminds him of someone. He's sure that he's seen someone wearing that shirt. So, what is a scarecrow? The question pertaining to this section, the scarecrow was made of a bamboo pole and it had been fixed vertically on the ground and another was placed horizontally. The two ends of the second pole stretched out like two arms and the shirt had been slipped into its structure. Its sleeves covered the arms. So it had loose sleeves, so that became more scary. And over the free end of the vertical pole, an earthen pot had been placed upside down. So upside down, you understand, it is the opening of the pot was put on the head structure of the bamboo pole and the round arch was put above. So that was upside down. So this is the description of scarecrow. And then part 4 is the idea where he thinks that he had seen the scarecrow somewhere. He tries to, pass his time by having some tea from the flask, and then his heart beats faster also. Why? Because he could see that someone is limping towards him. Instead of the earthen pot, it was a human head and it is taking the shape of a man. So it still has the same shirt on and a slightly dirty dhoti. And Mriganko Babu feels that somebody is limping. Sometimes when you're busy with your work, you have some waves behind your mind that, something is happening there. So same thing happened with him, and he could see a human being walking towards him limping, and the same shirt, that was red and black shirt, printed shirt, and a slightly dirty dhoti. So where is the scarecrow? Who's this? Many questions started coming to his mind. A man walking towards him, slightly limping. So the man was coming there. And then I come to part 5. The scarecrow calls out to him, Babu, with a human voice. And that scarecrow had turned into a man and he called him, and he was so terrified. He recollects that he had heard this voice before, and he says that, oh, It's my servant's voice. It is Abhiram. He recognized him, and Abhiram says that he was quite innocent and questions Babu why he didn't believe him. So Abhiram had a complaint against his master. He takes him back to that same household where he worked as a servant, and he said that, Master, I did not steal your watch, but you charged me with that, and you told me to go out of the house, so I was not the thief. Then Babu recollects the past. So this was all a flashback, and the questions pertaining to this is that what made everyone in the household convinced that Abhiram was the only who had stolen Mrigango Babu's gold watch, and how could Mriganko Babu take his servant out after having had so much faith on him? So these are the questions which you really need to remember. See, when Mriganko Babu's gold watch was found missing, his father called a local witch doctor. What is a witch doctor? A person in certain societies who can cure ailments using traditional magic and herbs, or who cast spells, provide charms, and other means of making fool, we can say, in those times, and people used to believe also. So they called a local witch doctor, and they also got a wicker tray. What is a wicker tray? Made of grasses which grow near the rivers and streams, or thin pieces of wood woven together. So they made it into a tray, and they used to rotate it very fast, and the moment that pointer stopped, that person was said to be accused. And same thing happened. The local witch doctor moved that wicker tray, and it stopped in front of Abhiram. So he was accused of theft. So what happened to Abhiram after he lost his job at Mriganko Babu's household? So after Mriganko Babu believed that he was the thief, he told him to leave the house, and thereafter Abhiram had to leave the house because everybody was against him. And when he left the house, soon Abhiram was afflicted with dropsy. Dropsy is a generalized swelling of body leading to death. So he was very ill. He got this disease, he suffered and died. And he was very sad that he could not prove his innocence to his masters. So he had to leave the house. And then part 6, Abhiram worked as a servant to Babu for 20 to 22 years. He was a faithful servant, but still, he did not have the chance to prove his innocence. So, in the shape of a scarecrow, he comes in front of Babu because he knows that he was very faithful. So, he tells Babu, when he comes in front of him, he says that, Babu, your watch is still lying there. You will find your watch because your servants do not clean your house properly. It is under the wardrobe for the last 3 years. That means the servants were so negligent that they never cleaned the house properly. Had they cleaned the house properly, they would have found the watch, but they did not do that. He slowly turns hazy and bids goodbye, Babu telling that he must leave and disappear. So the only thing he wanted to convey that he did not commit the crime of stealing the gold watch. And thereafter the scarecrow in the shape of Abhiram disappears, right? And the questions, why did Abhiram say he became a scarecrow? He tells him that this was the right chance to meet him, his master, and that's why he had also got a chance to speak for his innocence and made Mriganko Babu realize the truth. That is why he had to become a scarecrow. So he's telling his master, he's speaking to him, right? What did Abhiram learn after his death? Abhiram learned that after death, even the dead man could have a heart. After his death, Abhiram learned that he was not at peace. He had to speak the truth to his master. So he turned himself into a scarecrow. And until and unless he did not speak to his master, his soul was not at peace. So his desires were only fulfilled when he spoke the truth to his master, right? So now, immediately there was a call from Sudhir. He said, Master, I have come. Mriganko Babu wakes up to Sudhir's voice. He finds himself sitting in the car. Oh my God, I'm still in the car, but what happened to me? I was speaking to somebody. A scarecrow turned into a man, and he was Abhiram. He fell asleep thinking for a story plot, and the pen is still in his hand. So, sometimes these extraordinary things or you can say supernatural things make us believe some kind of happenings which have really occurred in their lives or our lives. Same way, the Scarecrow also made Mriganko Babu realize, maybe it could be through his dream or his subconscious mind, but these things do happen. He looked at the Scarecrow and it is standing there in the distance, and then he sees, I was talking to someone, how come I'm lying down in the car? He sees that still the Scarecrow is there, and he finds his gold watch when he goes back, and he decides that never would he now believe in superstitions. Mriganko Babu feels that despite being an author, he hasn't evolved as a complete human being. He was such a big writer, but he realizes that he has not touched human feelings because he could not do justice with Abhiram, which is the most important lessons, students, that we learn from the story. And apart from the fact that we must not believe in superstitions, right? So, lessons we learn from the story: we must not believe in things blindly or believe in superstitions. We must be good and sensible human beings, okay? And then one of the most important questions from the story is describe the character sketch of Mriganko Babu. So you can elaborate these points. Mriganko Shekhar Mukhopadhyay was a famous and popular writer. He was awarded, and in this story also he was moving towards a felicitation ceremony. He was a kind man. He had a lot of patience, and so many points you can develop. So he resolved to change his thinking after learning his mistake. He thought that he will never believe in superstitions, and he realized, and we believe that the person who realizes his mistake is no longer a wrong person, because the next time when same situation or such kind of happenings occur, then you have that clear thinking, you have that humane thinking, okay? So this was an overview of my thoughts that I shared from the story The Scarecrow. So children, I wish you all the very best. Stay safe, stay blessed. Thank you.